Atar Meher Baba ki jai. You want to start by reading my wish, Ashok ji?
जय बाबा अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय. My wish, the lover has to keep the wish of the beloved. My wish for my lovers is as follows: do not shirk your responsibilities. Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but always keep at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. When you feel happy, think Baba wants me to be happy. When you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer. Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely, Baba has placed me in this situation. With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others. I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. So do not forget to remember me in your last moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments. Karthik, can I just borrow 1 minute if you allow? I wanted to read out one another message from Baba. If it's if you it's if it's okay with you.
Oh, sure, please. You want
Yeah,
to share something and then, or just
yeah.
read it
Then
out?
yeah. I'll say I'll just I'll
Yeah,
say
please
I'll
read.
read it out. So I came over this Baba's photograph, and behind the photograph is this Baba's message. It is the truth.
Please,
I just start. It is the
please.
truth. It is the truth when I say that the waves do not roll and the leaves do not move without my will. Meher Baba. So this is a beautiful photograph of Baba. I'll share it in the group. I think it's in Jabalpur in the river. There's some story about that. He went to Jabalpur, where there is the uh, amalgamation of two or three
Sangam.
rivers. Sangam,
Sangam.
Sangam.
And
Yes,
then
yes.
he's washing his hands, correct?
Yeah,
Or
correct,
dipping
correct.
his hands.
Yes, so
Yeah,
you know it.
so that's Nomita has painted that, by the way.
Oh, I see.
She has it in her office in Singapore. I saw it painted by her.
Wow.
Kama, you
So
must have seen it too. You went to her office?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for sharing that message. And good to see you, Kama, because we were waiting to attack you from yesterday. So on supplement 19, and I wish Ashish was there, but I will let him know that we took up his question. So Ashish's question is when Baba says, in fact, it's to do with the sixth wish that Ashok just read now. So, who, I repeat, I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. What does Baba mean by the phrase comes to me? Ama.
Yeah, the way, see, there can be different interpretations. Um, one is that if, let's say, you take up another birth, which means that Baba is going to be there for you and you don't have to go do your spiritual shopping. The second one is that if you are, let's
Ready.
say, God fearing, and if you have the grace of Baba, then he can give you moksha or ordinary mukti. So that is one way of looking at it. But just because you remember him before you drop your body and you have a load of sanskaras with you, technically you can't get liberated because you have to, as we know, nirvana means sanskaras have to become zero. That is the second form of liberation. But the most common form of liberation, mukti, is ordinary mukti or moksha. So in that case, we know that only those God-fearing souls that are eligible to get that probably can get liberated. So the best way to look at it is that you are protected in case you are going to take number of birth cycles in the future. Baba will always be there for you because you are already under his umbrella. He will not let go of you, whatever happens. Jai Baba.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kama. I think my views were also very similar in the sense that it's a very nuanced way to interpret this. There's no straight single y- unitary answer, and it is absolutely driven by sanskaras and absolutely confirmation that Baba is going to be with you, and I mean, he's going to take you through in the best possible manner, right? It could be, I may add one more nuance. The nuance could be that instead of having to do 100 births, you might do 10 more, right? He might fast track. But overall, he he's not here. I mean, that's my interpretation based on reflection and based on seeing this in the context of everything else that we have been reading. I have not heard any authority on Baba authority talk about this in their interpretations. Finally, it's all interpretations, right? So each one is free to interpret it in different ways. Does that make sense? Okay, Ashish is not there, but so
Yeah,
that's yeah.
okay. Jay Baba, can I just
Please.
add a few words? So it's basically, it's not a free pass. To each his own, and as you rightly said, it depends on your sanskaric equation. I mean, whether your sanskars are tending towards zero, or it becomes zero, or you have the grace of the perfect master. So each his own, and so it will be different for different people. So it and then depends on their individual sanskaras and their
Okay.
proximity to God.
I just want to fight one statement that you made. It is a free pass. I mean, it is profound. The point that Baba is making, and the fact that every avatar has said something similar, and the fact that he has said it multiple times, means that it is significant and profound. It is
Mhm.
something that's not available to all. Having said that, I think it is subject to a star, and then conditions apply.
Subject to
Right?
what? Sorry,
I said
subject
there is
to.
a star, there is a star, and then there's conditions apply, or there is a nuance, multiple nuances possible. But it
Condition.
is profound. It's not available for the millions of millions and billions. It's available only for those that do what he is asking you to do. So,
Yeah.
in the sense that I don't want to oversimplify it by saying, I used to say, why is this free pass? If you remember long back, I used to keep asking whenever my wish is read. But I think it is a pass. It is a free pass. It is significant. It is profound. It is a blessing given by him to those in his fold. But as I said, there is a star and there's conditions apply because I'm just seeing it in the context of the bigger picture. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for Kama, your response,
Yeah.
and Ashok, your comment.
Yeah.
Mamaji?
Thank
Can I have a word?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Then what is the idea of this? I would like to go blindfolded, blindfolded in the path, not traversing on my own. So,
Good question. Kama, you want to
Well,
take it first?
well, I think what it means is that there are two ways of attaining, let's call mukti, right? We have different forms of mukti. So let's use that instead of calling God realization. God realization is just one form of mukti, as we know, correct? So what we are seeing here is that to attain mukti or liberation, you can do it on your own by following the book, right? You follow, let's say, if you're a Hindu, you follow the Bhagavad Gita, or you follow whatever the Ten Commandments and whatever it is. And that is where an example of Aurobindo comes into mind. According to Baba, he said Aurobindo was one who did not have the guidance of a guru, but he did it all by himself to reach the sixth plane, which is very, very difficult for anybody. The second part is that even if you do it by yourself, if you're not guided, you can get entrapped in one of the planes, first plane, second plane, third plane, and you can misuse those powers, those siddhis that you get, and basically you will um, you will get distracted and get entrapped, which is what happens to the musts in different planes. But the best part is that the easiest or the most convenient way of getting mukti is to latch on to the daman of a perfect master and follow him and follow the three Hafiz prayers, right? Befitting a fortunate slave, carry out every command of the master. So, which is what the Mandali did. They didn't understand God speaks. They didn't try to go through all that. They just followed Baba, they just obeyed Baba's dictates. So, the summary of it is that even if you go through all the different planes, you're uh, they are all part of the illusion, and they are just going to increase the number of cycles that you're going through, because anyway everybody is going to get mukti by 84 lakh human life cycles. That is guaranteed. So the idea out here is that if you just go veiled, then you don't have to go through. It's like after you finish high school, let's say, you don't have to get bachelor's, master's. You just go straight, get your PhD, because you're a genius. But you're a genius because you're following the perfect master uh, with complete obedience. And so that is the whole idea. Is anyway the gross world, subtle world, mental world are part of the grand illusion. So by going veiled, by following the perfect master, then one can get liberation without going through those spheres of existence, which is, we call it unveiled. So that is the whole idea, Jai Baba.
Okay, thank you. Nice discussion and some clarity as to what we discussed yesterday.
Unfortunately, without the trigger being present, the trigger was Ashok. I mean, Ashish's question. I will nudge him to pick up this recording and listen to the first part. Okay, so let's get started from where we left off. We left off at on page 130, and we'll continue from there. Avtar Baba Ki Jai. In other words, God first goes through the becoming process in the gross. That is, in the gross, God becomes the body of Annabhuvan, gross sphere. Then in the subtle, he becomes the energy of Pranabhuvan, subtle sphere. Then in the mental, he becomes the mind of Manobhuvan, mental sphere. Beyond this is Vigyan. God becomes God. That is, that which he was and is and always will be. Therefore, God, who was originally unconscious, now becomes oblivious of oblivion itself and gets the real and final answer to his original first word, who am I, as I am God. Thus, in the gross, subtle, and mental spheres, God becomes actually what he really is not. And in Vigyan, becomes actually what he really is. Originally, God was God. Now, God has become God. So, this para describes the becoming process. So, if you notice in every one of the worlds, he's going through the the process of identifying and becoming that bhuvan, that sphere, right? So he goes through the prana bhuvan, and so
We lost
and
your audio.
yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I just
Okay.
paused speaking. So then he becomes the prana bhuvan. Then he becomes the mental, and uh, finally, Baba says he becomes what he originally was, which is the unconscious God, now becomes conscious and answers the question, and he enters into Vigyan. But Vigyan is not for everybody, right? We know that. So now God has become God. So let's continue. Just because God, after passing away in his original state of absolute vacuum in the first stage of fana, realizes his own infinite state of I am God in the second stage of fana, this fana is fana fila, becomes and is the goal. I'll read this without the paragraph, I mean, without the phrase in parenthesis. Just because God, after passing away in his original state of absolute vacuum in the first stage of fana, realizes his own infinite state of I am God in the second stage of fana, this fana becomes and is the goal. The goal, if you go through the first stage, is the second stage, which is fana pila. Attainment of this goal means the end of the first divine journey, which began with gnosis and which ended after traversing all planes of consciousness in deification. Deification is, I mean, we are seeing this first time, so I will just uh, tell you what it means. It's from the word deity. No, glorification of, yeah, this is the one. Let me open it. The act or an instance of deifying, and deifying itself means to make a god of, to take an as an object of worship, to glorify as of supreme worth, right? So that so attainment of this goal means the end of the first divine journey, which began with gnosis and which ended after traversing all planes of consciousness in deification. I continue. The second stage of fana, now it's fana fila. The second stage of fana is deification, which means man has become God. Man now is God and experiences God's knowledge, God's power, and God's bliss. But this is not perfection as yet, although it is the goal. The second stage of fana, or the fana fila, which is the end of the first divine journey, man has entered God and thus has become God, but has not yet entered God's life. Man, the end of the first divine journey, simply realizes that he is God and simply experiences the I am God state together with the experiences of infinite power, knowledge, and bliss, and enjoys the state of infinite bliss. So you notice one thing here, uh, has not yet entered God's life. Man, now he's talking about in the first person man, second person man at the end of the first divine journey simply realizes that he, now small h, is God and simply experiences the I am God state. So he realizes who he is and he reaches the Tattva Aham Brahmasmi state. And he's able to recognize that, but he is not living God's life. So the previous line says that, but has not entered God's life, right? So let's just mark that out. Yeah, let's continue to see what happens after the second journey. I mean, after the first journey. After the goal, big G, is attained at the end of the first divine journey, but very rarely, however, God as man, now in the God state, can leave infinite bliss and come down to normal consciousness from the superconscious I am God state and begin to experience the state of Baka, thus entering the second divine journey. So the first journey is Fana and then Fana Fila. I mean, the two spots are Fana and Fana Fila. Then it is Baka. Sufi term Baka means abiding in. Now there is a supplement
Okay,
reference
Jai Baba.
21. Yeah,
Jai Baba. Okay, I think you should highlight that line. Go back to the paragraph.
yeah.
After the goal is attained at the end of the first divine journey, but very rarely, however, this one,
Yeah. I was also thinking exactly of that.
God as man, which means that most people just go into God realization and that's it. They drop their
Yeah.
body. But I think what you are seeing out here is talking about the Sahaja Samadhi state, you know, and the 56 God realized souls who are Paramahamsa Jivan Mukta. Okay, so we'll come to that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's read and understand more. Is that Ashish who joined us now? Hey, Ashish, you are late by
Yes.
10 minutes. So
Yeah.
we answered your question very beautifully. Rama was here and I attacked him with a question the moment he joined. So catch it on the recording later. Yeah?
Sure, sure. Yeah, yes, yeah.
Jai Baba.
Okay,
Before
Baba.
I forget. Yeah. Now let's go to 21. 240. The Sufi conception of Fana and Baka. That's the name of the title of the supplement. Let's go ahead and read it. This is a short study of the terms Fana and Baka as understood by the Sufis. Every plane has a Fana and Baka of its own. This is interesting. So every plane has its own Fana and its own Baka. It must be remembered that the Fana of the planes is not the Fana of the seventh plane, and that the Baka of the planes is not the Baka of the Kutub state, the state of perfection. The following are some of the chief points of comparison in Sufi Gnosis, and it will be seen that their exposition is mostly in relation to the seventh plane and that their terms have, of course, a transcendental application. Pana
Jai Baba.
literally, yeah,
Yeah, go back to that line, please. Up. Uh, so I have a query here because um, when it says that the baka of the plains is not the baka of the kutub state, the state of perfection. Now, I think this is a very a little bit ambiguous out here because if we really go into baka baka bila, okay, now the baka bila state is for both. Baka bila means, as you know, simultaneously and spontaneously abiding in God consciousness and body consciousness. And this is applicable to both Jivan Mukta and Sadguru, which is Kutub. The only difference, which we call Sahaja Samadhi, the only difference between the Jivan Mukta and Sadguru is the Jivan Mukta is in a passive state of action because he doesn't directly deal with the public, whereas the Kutub or Sadguru is an active participant. So,
Yeah.
I think that by saying, and also in the God Speaks, when you were reading about the two types of Jivan Muktas, the rare form called Akmal, in that this word perfection applies to both Kutub and Jivan Mukta actually. So that's why this line when it says the Kutub, uh, it makes it confusing. That's what I wanted to point out. The state of perfection is applicable to both Jivan Mukta, which is the real Salik, and the Sadguru or the Kutub state. So something we need to clarify with someone else also. Yeah, yeah, well,
Well, I think very good stuff that you're pointing out. Very good conceptual clarity. So I think the way maybe the reference to perfection uh, is broader than the perfect master. So perfection is a state, and only those that have duty, the fact that they have obligations to uh, and duties to perform for creation are called perfect master. So perfection is the state of godhood that is reached at the Baka of the seventh plane. So Jivan Mukta gets it, but he's not perfect master. So both have perfection, but one is having duty, so he comes to perfect master. Just a thought.
Baba, we may
so
get clarity in the supplement 21 when we read further.
Yeah, I think I'm sure Kama has seen that and still wants to make the comment, but we'll read it. We'll continue reading and discover
I
it.
have
Kama, go
one.
ahead. You were saying something.
o- o- okay, so when it says it must be remembered that the fana of the planes. So basically, fana is the state that the must experience. Okay, in different planes is not the fana of the seventh plane because the fana of the seventh plane is basically one is nirvana, the first stage of fana, and the second stage of final fana. Actually, technically, the word should be the fana of the seventh plane should be called the final fana. So, the first stage of final fana is nirvana, and the second stage of final fana is fana phila or nirvikalpa samadhi. And that the baka of the planes is not the baka of the seventh plane, which is basically baka bila, applicable to both Jivan Mukta and Kutub.
Yeah,
Jai Baba.
correct.
So in
That's
summary, what I feel the word baka means those who can help the others achieve better or support their journey in the path. Wherever they are, they can do that to those who are below them. That may be the major concept of baka. Baka is the process of helping the other. Pana is experiencing that stage, but do not have any function as such. But baka means they have the capability of, say, uh, helping the others by way of suggestions or support or things like that. Maybe that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jebaba, to clarify, doctor, what doctor says, see, Baka happens also in the planes, first plane to the sixth plane, where you get siddhis and you're, helping others. Because Baka means you are in body conscious state. You're not a must in fana. So the other thing is, it's important to know is that only the fifth and sixth plane saint are capable of advising the spiritual aspirants. So one should not get stuck to the people who are in the first to the fourth plane who are in Baka. That's my point. But you're right that Baka state is the state where you are capable of using your siddhis in many of these planes to help others. Yeah,
Yes,
Baba.
yes, good point.
So, Jai Baba, can I just say something?
Yeah. Please.
So, so in this line, it must be remembered that the fana of the plains is not the fana of the seventh plane, and the baka of the plains is not the baka of the kutub state, the state of perfection. So, is this a distinction between illusion and the reality which we get in the seventh plane? I think it refers to that. Is that a wrong perception? My question is that we are transforming from illusion to reality, because from 1 to 6 plane we are still in illusion, and in 7th plane we get reality. So I think it refers to that. Can somebody clarify this?
It's perfectly correct. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you can, Karthik, you can make a mark. He's correct what he said. From illusion, from the first to the sixth planes, you're going to the seventh plane, which is the reality, the real sphere, right? So he's right. Yeah, Baba.
Yeah. I'll
Thank,
just make a mark of that.
thanks Kama. Dr. Kama I would call.
जब डॉक्टर कुछ अप्रिसिएशन देता है तो बहुत बड़ा बात है, बड़ी बात है.
Any, I'm learning. I'm still learning like all of you. Karthik is the other way around. First to fifth plane, oh sorry, seventh plane is reality.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Right?
Hey Baba.
Jai Baba. Okay, now Baba continues. The following are some of the chief points of comparison in Sufi gnosis, and it will be seen that their exposition is mostly in relation to the seventh plane, and that their terms have, of course, a transcendental application. Pana literally means Pana literally means effacement or annihilation. It is a state that is not permanent. Baka literally means permanence and is a state that abides forever. And I think in discourses and everywhere we have heard that this meaning is more towards abiding in Baka. Pana signifies the end of traveling towards God. So this is more like an end point or a destination. So there is temporary nature and there is also like an end, right? So Baka signifies
So
the
we are
beginning of traveling in God. Yeah. Come on.
sorry. I just wanted to make sure that this fana and baka that is being discussed is for the seventh plane.
Seventh plane. Yes. So again, it's a bit ambiguous here. It's that their terms have a transcendental application. So does transcendental include the 6 planes or only 7th plane? I do not know. But if you see the previous phrase, it's very clear. It will be seen that their exposition is mostly in relation to the 7th plane. So let's assume it's
You
only
should
7th.
underline that. You underline that 7th plane.
Yeah, yeah. Pana is not to be considered as an attribute. It is not like the dissolution of sugar in water. So fana is not an attribute. So you can't say that he has fana. Fana is like a destination. It's not like the dissolution of sugar in water. According to Hujwiri, it does not signify the disappearance of essence. Does not signify disappearance of essence. Okay, in the annihilation, essence remains. Now, essence is the individual soul's identity, maybe, which remains. So you dissolve the ego, you dissolve the mind, which is annihilation, but the essence remains, right? So if you dissolve sugar in water, the essence remains, the sugar vanishes. Baka represents that which was not non-existent before and will not be non-existent afterwards, like the essence of God. So Baka is not non-existent before and will not be non-existent afterwards, like the essence of God. So this is more, this whole section is an explanation about these terms from all the Sufi literature, I'm assuming. Pana is the disappearance of the cognition of Gair. Gair is the other, also a Hindi term, right? It's the disappearance of the cognition of Gair. So again, for reference, 6th plane, you see the other. You recognize and identify the other, and you are different. Whereas the Gair is lost when Fana happens. Baka is the knowledge of God that one gains after the disappearance of Gair. Right? Gair is also in Hindi, it's the term. Fana, according to Mahmoud Shabishtari in Gulshan-e-Raz, is death of passion, of self-will, and of the ego. So these are the 3 things that are dissolved. Death of the ego, self-will, and of the ego, resulting in the spiritual awakening to eternal life, Baka. It also means the forgetfulness of the false ego. Again, this is frequently done, right? Forgetfulness of the false ego, which has so long been concealing man's reality, God, from himself. If it occurs to the aspirant that it is effaced from self, it is a defect. The highest state is to be effaced from effacement. So what does this line mean? These 2 lines mean here. Effaced from smallest self, it is a defect.
If it
I'll read
occurs
from here
to
again.
the
It
aspirant,
also means, yeah, please go ahead, Mamaji.
this sentence is difficult to understand. If it occurs to the aspirant that he is effaced from self, it is a defect. Their state is to be effaced from effacement.
So let's leave the second line aside. Let's try to understand the first line alone. So what it means, it's obviously an explanation of the previous line. So let me start there. It also means the forgetfulness of the false ego, Khudi, which has so long been concealing man's reality from himself. Okay, so I think it's
Jai Baba.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kama, go ahead.
See, the way I interpret it is, if it occurs, look at the wording, if it occurs to the aspirant that he is effaced from self, it is a defect. So the way I interpret it is that it occurs to me sometimes, oh, I don't have an ego, I'm fine. I am with Baba and I don't have an ego. Or like some people
Mm,
say,
mm.
oh, I don't lie, I never
Yeah.
lie. So that's a defect. But the highest state is to be effaced from effacement, which means you don't even think to yourself, oh, I don't have an ego. Like you don't tell yourself, Karthik, that I'm a man. You know,
Mm.
right? So
Very good
that is
point.
the analogy here is that it's a temporary form. If it occurs to the aspirant that is effaced from self, it is a defect, mean it's a temporary form of
Beautiful.
delusion that I have lost my ego. I am like perfect, which is what happens to the so-called babas, the people who are stuck in the plains, and we have the spiritual marketplace going on. So the highest state is that you don't have to think about it. You know, hey Baba.
Jeva, I
Perfect.
have a question. So this line, the highest state is to efface from effacement. Would it relate to the total annihilation of the mind, Manonash?
Yeah.
Could it be?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the recognition is a defect. So recognition of effacement is a defect. And a beautiful couple of lines that Kama said, right? When you say that I don't have an ego, well, you just did. You just demonstrated its existence. Right? So anyway, that's beautiful. Let's continue. Fana is of two kinds, outward and inward. Then we take up each one. Outward fana. This is the fana of deeds and the glory of divine deeds. The possessor of this fana becomes so immersed in divine deeds that he is oblivious of himself and of everything except of the desire and the will of God. Some holy aspirants have attained this mukam wherein they are so indifferent, sorry, to physical needs that God appoints someone to look after them. Okay, so here you just focus on the deeds and glory of divine deeds, and he becomes so immersed in divine deeds that he is oblivious of himself and of everything. Right? Some holy aspirants have attained this mukam, wherein they are so indifferent to physical needs. So, so something like a must, right? So they are so lost in the divine cause and in carrying out the divine desires that you are indifferent to what is happening, and somebody helps you with these things in creation. Next one
Exactly, Karthik.
is
I was thinking about the same thing as God intoxicated souls, the musts.
okay, something like that, but they are not in the same state. So that's why we have to be careful in making that equivalence. So that experience is similar.
Experience is similar. Okay.
Yeah, because in the God intoxication state, it's not the state of fana, right? State of the seventh plane fana.
No, but if you go back to the previous paragraph, indifferent to physical needs, and that he's forgotten, yeah, forgetfulness of the khudi. So he's forgetting and oblivious of himself and everything except of the desire and will of God. So he is so immersed, he's forgetting the whole world. So it's similar to, let's say, or we can say
Yeah, that's what.
similar to mass.
Similar to, but not equal to, right? So because the other equivalence is wrong. Must does not enjoy seventh plane fana.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So that's why I said similar. And you also said it. Perfect. We are fine. Let's just continue. Inward fana. This is the fana of qualities in Zat. Zat is a reality. The possessor of Hal experience in the revelation of the attributes of God is immersed sometimes in the fana of his own qualities and sometimes in the manifestation of the influence, asar, and the glory, tajalli of God. So here he is immersed sometimes in the fana of his own qualities and sometimes in the manifestation of the influence and glory of God. So this is a technical distinction, outward and inward fana. One is the outward manifestation is represented by not being able to look after and being indifferent to the creation and to the world. Whereas in the inward fana, the experiences are more internal, and he alternates between sometimes in the fana of his own qualities and sometimes in the fana of the asar, which is manifestation of the asar of God, asar and tajalli of God, glory of God. Okay? Outward fana is a portion of the lords of the heart and of the companions of Hal. Portion of the lords of the heart. What does that mean here? Outward fana is a portion of the lords of the heart and of the companions of Hal.
If you go back for the fana definition, first line, can we have an example of who is in this state? This is the fana of deeds and glory of the divine deeds. So what do they do? There are, it's actually referred to as deeds. So action refers to some action and glory of divine deeds. So can we have an example of somebody who is in this? What do they do? What is the deeds that they do?
Good question. Anybody has an answer? I do not. Because it means that the person is recognized to be in that state and has performed certain deeds. So if there is an example that we have come across, which we can discuss it. And if we find it, we can obviously share. But good question. How will you recognize a person experiencing outward fana? Forget outward fana, just fana. How would you recognize the seventh plane fana when you see him on the street? No easy answers.
Yes.
Keep looking.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, now outward fana and lords of the heart. What does this mean?
No, once we get some idea on that first definition, I think we will
Yes.
be able to
Yes.
marshal the part.
Yeah, I agree. So we want to document what we are not getting. Okay, let's continue. Inward fana is peculiar to the noble ones who have outgrown the sway of Hal and have pierced the veil of the heart. From the society of the men of the heart, they have joined the society of the converter of hearts, who is God. Repeat the line slowly. Inward fana is peculiar to the noble ones who have outgrown the sway of Hal. Okay, so outward fana is more where they are succumbing to the sway of Hal. Hal is nothing but the experiences. And those that outgrow it become inward, become part of or experience inward fana, and they have pierced the veil of the heart. And from the society of men of the heart, they have joined the society of converter of hearts. This is more the poetic description, but basically, inward fana is the next stage where you overcome the, the feature where in outward fana you're completely at the mercy of the experiences and at the mercy of the divine deeds, whatever they will be. Right.
With this
So
two types of explanations of inward phenomena, so I feel to imagine that all the musts are experiencing the inward phenomena because they are not doing anything to the outward environment or others around. They are experiencing only what is uh, in them inside. Whereas those who do some deeds in this stage to the say others or in the environment, they may be in the say outward phenomena. So that examples for that I'm not able to understand.
yeah, but again, please note you can get into the must state, the God intoxication state, in any of the planes and be stuck there. Whereas
Yes, yes.
what we are reading is seventh plane fana only. But I agree with you 100%. Okay. So baka, that is in relation to outward fana, is this. After fana of desire and of will, God makes the slave into a master of desire and will and gives him absolute control of the reins of guidance. I repeat, baka, that is in relation to outward fana, is this. After fana of desire and of will, God makes the slave into a master of desire and will and gives him absolute control of the reins of guidance. So in outward fana, the person is also completely doing whatever the reins of guidance suggest. So God carries out his will through completely giving him the, the control of desire, right? So uh, basically, he gets his work done. Paka, in relation to inward fana, is this. The soul becomes neither God as the veil of creation, nor creation, the veil of God. I repeat, Baka in relation to inward fana is this. The soul becomes neither God as the veil of creation, nor creation the veil of God. In fana, God is the veil of creation, and to those who have not reached the state of fana, creation is the veil of God. Oh, beautiful, right? Very beautiful. So in fana, God is the veil of creation. And to those who have not reached the state of fana, creation is the veil of God. The second part we all are currently in, we have understood or we have clearly understood that. But when you reach fana, then the soul becomes in a state where God is the veil of creation. So between you and creation, there is God. Whereas in the other, in the normal state, in our state, creation is between us and God. Okay, let's continue. Oh, that's the end of it. Okay, very complex set of wordings, very interesting concept of outward and inward fana, and of course the difference between fana and baka. Okay, with that, let's get back. I continue. To come down to normal consciousness from the super consciousness, sorry, to come down to normal consciousness from the super conscious I am God state, and to experience the abiding in God state would mean getting established in the very life of God. Thus, in Baka, the life of God in a human being is established. This means that in Baka, man establishes himself as God consciously. This consciousness is called Sulukiyat, or the normal consciousness of being established in the life of God. Distinct from this is the Madzubiyat, or being drowned or absorbed by infinite bliss in the state of I am God. Accordingly, God as man experiencing the state of Baka is called the real Salik in Sufi terminology. This Baka of reality and divinity is called Baka Bila. In Vedanta, it is known as Atma Pratishtapana. So everybody going into Baka Bila reaches Atma Pratishtapana because, yeah.
Yes, that Atma Pratishtapana is the Vedantic term for Bakabila.
So what's the difference between Baka and Baka Bila?
See, it's very simple. As you have fana between the first and sixth planes, which is what the must go through, similarly, you have baka. So when you're in the first plane, second plane, some people are in must state and some people are in baka state, which is they are normal. That is called baka. But when you have baka bila, so look at the correlationship. Fana fila and baka bila. Fana fila is nirvikalpa samadhi. Baka bila is sahaja samadhi. Fana fila implies only the God consciousness state, whereas baka bila implies both God consciousness and body consciousness, simultaneously and spontaneously abiding in both states, which is Sahaja Samadhi. This is Jivan Mukta and Kutub's state.
which which is also called Atma Pratishtapana.
Correct. Atmavatishthapana is the Hindu Sufi term for
Yeah.
the Vedantic term for Bakabila.
Okay. Just curious. So where does it say this consciousness is also looking at this form experience? So it's what I'm looking for is the simultaneous experience of God state. What is clear here is there is a state where y- you are enjoying the life of God, the very life. See,
Mm.
established in the very life of God. I think
Correct. Abiding
that's
in it.
that's
Yes,
Bakabila, right? So
correct.
where is the experience of normal consciousness that or the simultaneous experience, like the way you said it? Um, so it's if you look at it the other way, it's the normalization of the God state. That's what I'm getting out of this para. So
What do you mean
whether it
normalization?
What do you mean by
basic,
normalize?
so you slip into a state of being God. And so if you read this, this means that in Baka, man establishes himself as God consciously. And there's another one, distinct from this in the state of apparently God as man experiencing Baka.
Would mean is see
What's
it's
that?
simply
Hmm,
like remember in the avatar the difference between the avatar and the kutub or the God realized people is the avatar becomes whereas the Sadguru acts. Correct. So
correct.
they become normal human beings. You know that is even though he is God realized, when you come to the Bakabila state, you are like a normal human being.
But you're not a kutub, right?
You are a kutub, of course. Vakabila means basically applies to two different aspects of liberate muktas, Jivan Mukta and Parama Mukta. Okay? Jivan Mukta is for the one who has both Jivan Mukta and Parama Mukta undergo Bakabila. The difference is Jivan Mukta does not participate with the public, is a passive observer, whereas the Kutub, Sadguru, is an active participant. That is why he's called the perfect master.
Okay.
Both are in the same states, but their functions are different.
Yeah, one has function and the other doesn't. Okay.
So this background, if you look at the phenomena of what the first sentence we read, so they can be normal looking human beings enjoying that state, and their acts in that normal state may be divine activity.
Completely dictated by divine activities, and uh, can we even say not in their control?
Not in their control, like
They're
we
in
don't
divine
know.
control. So I
What do you
I
mean?
think
No, what do you mean not in their divine control? I don't.
so. I'm using the phraseology here. So if I go back to the supplement, he is and gives him absolute control of the rain. Okay, it's more God gives him the control, so it's in his control. He's carrying it out. Okay, I take that back. Okay, let's continue. The Salik. Now we are talking about the person who has reached this state, because the real Salik is the person who is enjoying the state of Baka. So the Salik not only experiences infinite power and infinite knowledge while in infinite bliss, as in Majzubiyat, but now being the Salik, he consciously accumulates all the infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss while being established in the life of God with the normal consciousness of his Sulukiyat. But before finally and really passing away in the reality of the ultimate Fanafila state with full consciousness completely matured, and before getting established in the final Bakabila of divinity, generally speaking, in terms of illusion, there are as many individualized experiences of Fana Baka as there are varied and innumerable species and states of life in creation. So there are many individualized experiences of Fana Baka.
These are in the different planes, from the first plane to the sixth plane.
Explain until you get the ultimate Fanafil. Yes. Nevertheless, three fundamental types of Fana Baka include all the individualized experiences of Fana Baka. The first of the three fundamental types is the rudimentary. This type of Fana Baka of the phenomenal false life in illusion, experienced by all who daily passing away in Fana gain Baka to abide in illusion every day. This rudimentary Fana Baka of the ordinary phenomenal false life is composed of the ordinary sound sleep state and the ordinary awake state. So the rudimentary experience of Pana and Baka is exactly what we do in our sound sleep and then coming back to the ordinary awake state. As stated before, even when one, with all of the impressions of illusion, passes away in sound sleep, the same original divine absolute vacuum of the God is state is established, where never anything existed and where nothing ever exists except the one infinite and only reality, as the big E everything, which is called the infinitude of God in his God is state. When the impressions of illusion with which one goes to sleep wake one up, one abides in illusion itself in the awake state and establishes everyday life in illusion.
Hey Baba, I think this paragraph is explaining to us the Paratpar Parabrahma state, which we temporarily experience in the sound sleep state unconsciously. Hey Baba.
Yes, absolutely. Accordingly, in everyday life, when one goes into sound sleep, pana is established as one daily passes away in the original God state without consciousness. When one wakes up daily, taka is gained to abide in the everyday life of illusion, as long as sound sleep does not overpower and drag one once again into the state of the daily fana, which is the one's original divine state of absolute vacuum. So that's the rudimentary type of fana and baka. Fana when you slip into deep sleep, baka when you get up. Now, let's take the second one. The second type of fana baka is of the. Is that a question? Okay, continue. The second type of fana baka is of the planes on the path towards attainment of the goal and differs from the rudimentary type of the ordinary phenomenal false life in illusion, although the second type of fana baka of the planes is also illusion. In every plane, from the first through the sixth plane on the path, the full consciousness evolved is being gradually withdrawn inwards or involved. Hence, the fana baka of the planes is in accordance with the impressions impregnating the involving consciousness and differs from the first type of rudimentary fana baka of the impressioned consciousness that is fully evolved or is still in the process of evolution. Every plane on the path towards the goal of Fanafila has its Fana Baka, while the fully evolved consciousness is being gradually involved in conjunction with progressive advancement in the planes. So, as you make your journey through the planes, there is a Fana and a Baka in each one of them, but there is the role of impression, there is the role of I mean, your individualized existence continues. You continue reading. But the generalized meaning of the Sufi term fana is the passing away in the absolute vacuum of the original God is state. Therefore, whether the fana is of the rudimentary type of the ordinary phenomenal false life or of the second type of the planes on the path, it does not make any difference at all. In both types, the fana passing away in is fundamentally the same. For daily in the sound sleep state, the impressioned consciousness in both cases passes away in the same state of absolute vacuum, regardless of all the differences in the types of impressions of illusion. Although the fana is always the same in both the evolving consciousness and the involving consciousness, yet it is the type of impressions of illusion with which the consciousness is impregnated while abiding in illusion during the awake state that really matters. That does create the differentiation when passing away in the sound sleep state or in the state of fana. For example, the fana of an animal or a creature in the sound sleep state passing away in the absolute vacuum with its own particular impressions of illusion differs completely from the fana of a human being in the sound sleep state passing away in the absolute vacuum with his own particular impressions of illusion. Similarly, the impressions of illusion of an ordinary human being will be quite different from the impressions of illusions of a human being in the planes of the path. So before you reach 100%, I mean the evolving consciousness reaches that of the human form with maximum consciousness. You still have the fana and the baka in all the other kingdoms, and then get to the human kingdom. And after you get to the human kingdom, before you have the experiences of the planes, you still continue to have fana and baka, where you're still in evolution and not yet started involution. After you start involution, you do the fana and baka with the six planes. Now let's continue. In all cases, though, the different types of fana remain always as fana, yet the different impressions impregnating individual consciousness in the baka of the awake state give rise to the individualized fana of each and all species and states of life in Big C creation. In contrast with that, when the baka of the individualized life is gained in the awake state after the sound sleep of state of fana, the baka, which in Sufi terms means abiding in, establishes in illusion the everyday individualized life of illusion in accordance with the predominant impressions with which the individualized life had passed away from the variety of impressions of illusion in the state of its individualized fana in the sound sleep state. As such, every individualized baka completely differs from every other baka, because when this individualized baka is gained in the awake state, the impressions of the impressioned consciousness of every individualized life are solely responsible for establishing in illusion the individualized life of illusion.
Jay Baba, I think
Yeah.
that since the universal law of nature is impermanence, change is the only permanent constant. All ordinary human beings and also the people in the plains are uh, the impressions keep changing, right? Depending on the kind of action you're doing. So naturally, the baka is also going to be very individualized and keep changing depending on the net cumulative impressions. Jai Baba.
Yeah, so that's what's being underlined here. So uh, it's all personal or individual specific. Hence, it is that in regular, unfailing succession, the fana of illusion in the sound sleep state is invariably followed by the baka of illusion in the awake state, which in turn gets lost in the inevitable fana only to alternate and re-establish again and again, day after day, year after year, and life after life, irrespective of whether this fana or baka is of the ordinary phenomenal false life or is of the planes on the path. It is never stable as long as it is of the illusion. As long as individualized life does not really and finally passing away in the phenomena of reality, big R, and become established in the abiding Bakabila of divinity, it is obvious that there are bound to be innumerable and diverse types and groups of fana baka of illusion in accordance with the persisting impressions that consistently impress the evolving and the involving consciousness of individualized life in baka.
I have a
In
question
every,
here, Jai Baba.
yeah, please.
Go back to the paragraph.
Yeah.
This line, fana fila of reality and become established in the abiding bakabila of divinity. So this word reality and divinity will keep coming. And I'm kind of wondering whether the fana fila of reality does it imply the Sachitananda state or the God consciousness state, whereas the Bakabila of divinity implies both God consciousness and body consciousness? That's my question, Jay Baba. The definition of divinity and reality.
So vocabula of divinity is, yes, it's abiding in the state of God consciousness if it is done in the seventh plane. So are you saying does that answer your question?
I'm interested in the definition of reality and divinity here, like, because it will come again and again, and it has come in other parts also. So when we say of anaphila of reality and of divinity, passing away in
Okay.
the panaphila, rather than just saying panaphila and become established and abiding bakabila, period. But it says panaphila of reality, bakabila of divinity. So what does it mean, kind of thing?
I think what I imagine or suspect is that uh, phenomena of reality is realization of God. Phenomena of divinity is the coming back to consciousness to as the master Sadguru to help others. So that is the aspect which is referred to as divinity.
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because in the first definition also this came up like that. So in the plane, those who are looking normal human beings, but already in some plane, they help others with their knowledge. So that is the divinity part of that and the heart part of that. So in this context, I think divinity refers to the coming back to the consciousness and trying to help others. So the effect of the Sadgurus or masters probably
Yeah.
is
Right.
more
Yep.
Agreed.
into what we are understanding.
Okay. Let me continue then. In every plane also, from the first through the sixth plane of involving consciousness, there is bound to be a particular type of baka for each of the six planes in accordance with the particular impressions of the illusion of each plane. When a man is said to be on the first plane, his fully evolved consciousness is beginning to involve, and his full consciousness remains focused on the first plane of the subtle sphere, because the impressions of the first plane consistently impregnating his involving consciousness would make him abide in the first plane and lead him to experience the illusion of this plane. Even though the gross body of the man on the first plane is exactly like the gross body of a man not on the first plane, and though the man on the first plane also sleeps and wakes up exactly like an ordinary man of the everyday phenomenal false life, yet because his involving consciousness is directly focused on the first plane, he passes away in the sound sleep state of the first plane fana with the impressions of the illusions of the first plane and wakes up daily to get established in the first plane baka, to abide in the first plane and to experience the impressions of that plane. The
It's a powerful
difference,
paragraph. Yeah, no, no,
yeah,
no. This is a very, very important, powerful paragraph because it actually summarizes for all the different planes. And also remember, we talked about how an ordinary man in the gross plane uses his gross body directly and the subtle body and mental body indirectly, whereas this man who is on the first plane is using his subtle body directly and the mental body, and the gross body indirectly.
Indirectly.
And then it gives much more details about the fana of that particular plane and the baka of that particular plane based on the impressions. And he lives in that illusionary world, the subtle world and the mental world, respectively. Hey,
As
Baba.
he goes through the planes. Yes. The difference between the fana baka of the man who enters the planes of the path and of the man who is not on the planes of the path is that the former can be likened to a man who, after living for many years in a certain plane, severs all of his past connections and sets out on a world tour, traveling from one place to another, crossing continents one after the other. Although this man would be daily going to sleep and awakening the next day, as he was accustomed to sleeping and awakening every day in his first habitat, yet now, in the course of his world tour, he would be passing away in sound sleep and would be daily waking up, evidently with the predominant impressions of his completely changed environments and novel experiences. So put your seatbelts on and get ready for the planes. Now let's go to supplement 22 as suggested. Involution of consciousness. Meher Baba comments further, full consciousness, which is complete as soon as the first human form is taken, gradually withdraws plane after plane. This involution of consciousness, which consciousness is already complete, begins for the first time when the hard set gross impressions become thinned out. Consciousness thus experiences the first plane. As the impressions get thinned out still more, the consciousness withdraws, involves more, and experiences the second plane, and so forth until the seventh plane is attained. Withdrawal of consciousness means that at first the consciousness which was complete was focused on gross impressions and far from being focused on big S self. Later on, in the process of involution, as the impressions thin out more and more gradually, with the help of diverse experiences of opposites, consciousness also concurrently shifts its focus gradually towards self with a big S. In the seventh plane, the consciousness is no longer impressioned consciousness, and this naturally results in the consciousness focusing upon its self, big S. This means that the consciousness identifies itself with self, big S, as all impressions have vanished. This is a good extension of what we understood on page 135. Let's go back. In short, he who enters the first plane of involving consciousness eventually experiences the first plane fully. This man, who is getting established in the first plane, establishes his living in this world of his own, and therefore he sleeps in this plane and wakes up every day in this plane as well. In exactly the same way, all individualized consciousness in all other planes passes away in the fana of those particular planes to wake up in such planes and establish the everyday life baka in these particular planes. Nevertheless, the fana baka of every plane of the path is fundamentally of the same type because it pertains only to consciousness that is involving gradually and not to that of the evolving nor of the evolved consciousness. Whatever difference there is to differentiate the fana baka of one plane from another plane would only be such as would exist between two men living of the same earth and having their own individual impressions of that particular part of the earth on which each lives. The man in America has his own impressions and relative experiences of his individualized life. The same is true of the man in Asia, who has his own impressions and experiences related to his continent, which is quite different from America. The fundamental fact remains that both men live on the same earth. Despite the vast difference between the impressions and the consequent experiences of these two men, yet when both sleep, they both pass away in sound sleep. And whether one sleeps on a bed of velvet and the other on a bed of hay, it is quite immaterial when both can equally enjoy the same sound sleep state. In like manner, when both wake up, they both can live their sorry, they both can live their individual lives in illusion on the same earth, irrespective of the difference in their impressions and their consequent relative experiences due to living on different continents. Thus, the Fana, Baka, Bakas of all the planes on the path are not in any way different fundamentally, although each and every plane on the path has its own Fana and Baka, when individualized life on the planes is under consideration. Just as the rudimentary first type of fana and baka includes all the individualized fanas and bakas of dogs, horses, camels, elephants, of all creatures and human beings that live the phenomenal false life of illusion in the gross world, so also the second type of fana and baka of the planes on the path includes all the individualized fana occurs of each and all on every plane from the first through the sixth planes of the illusory, subtle, and mental worlds. When a man in a particular plane, with his consciousness gradually involving, becomes completely dazed by the enchanting experiences of the plane, the man is said to be a majzub of this particular plane. Such a majzub is completely absorbed and overpowered by the impressions of illusions of the plane, which consistently impregnate his consciousness. Even in the awake state, this majzub of the plane behaves as if he were completely intoxicated by and drowned in the enchantment of the planes. Such a man is commonly known as a must, meaning thereby that the man is God intoxicated.
Yeah, Baba.
So,
One point
yeah,
here. This is where I think last time or in one of the discussions we were comparing Majzub and Majzub e Kamil. So, so basically, if you're a must between the first to the sixth plane, you're a Majzub of that particular plane, right? Whereas when
correct.
you go into the seventh plane, then the title becomes Majzub e Kamil.
Mansube Kamil,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. That's,
Two readings back, we were reading about that. So, Mansub a Kamil is when you're in the sixth plane.
so you can say that a must can also be called as a Majzub, even though we commonly use the term man, must. The technical word is a Majzub of that particular plane. Yeah, Baba.
Mhm. Yeah, Mansub is a broader term then, right? Must is specific. Is that the way to
Yes,
understand it? Yeah,
and and they call it Masti. Okay, whereas a Majzub e Kamil is in Majzubiyat, which is Fanafila. Fanafila
correct.
is the state of Majzubiyat. Bakabila is the state of Sulukiyat. Whereas now we will hear the Mas are in Masti and the Saliks are in Suluk between the
So,
first and sixth plane. Okay, go ahead.
there is a footnote. Yeah, so that's exactly what you were saying. The Majzub and Salik of the planes should not be confused with the real Majzub of the seventh plane, known as Majzub A Kamil, perfect Majzub, nor the real Salik of the seventh plane, both of which just now uh, Kama pointed out. Okay, let's continue. Oh, I think we are out of time. I think let's stop here and continue.
Can you
Any
finish the Salik
comments?
part? Can you finish it? Can you finish
Sure,
this
sure.
paragraph
Okay,
because it
sure,
was
sure, sure. It's linked, yes. Um, on the other hand, if a man in a particular plane does not get absorbed in and overpowered by the fascinating experiences of the plane, but continues to maintain his poise throughout, while his involving consciousness is persistently impressed by the impressions of illusions of that plane, he is then said to be a salik of the particular plane. Such a salik to all external appearances, behaves like a very normal man of the world, even though his consciousness is progressively involving and is completely disassociated from the gross world as far as his consciousness, fully focused on the particular plane, is concerned. The sulukiyat and masti of each plane are different.
I think it
There
should be
are,
said the suluk, it should be the suluk and masti of each plane are different. Sulukiyat is bakabila. So this is a little confusing. I believe it should be suluk, not sulukiyat. Sulukiyat
I
is
think
only
suluk,
of the seventh plane,
I
like
think suluk,
matsubiyat.
okay,
I think if you look at the definitions in the end of the chapters, at the end of the book, there is suluk and then sulukiyat.
okay. My understanding is sulukiyat is like the noun and suluk is the adjective. So if you
Yes,
see it like that, then the sulukiyat and masti of each plane are different. So masti is also a noun. So the sulukiyat
Or you
and
can say
masti of
madzubiyat. Why not? The sulukiyat and madzubiyat of each plane are
each
different.
plane.
Then it will
Correct.
make
You
sense.
can say that. You can say
yes.
that. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
The only
Then
thing is when you use this term solucious, you have to specify the plane if you want to be
correct.
correct. Otherwise,
Correct.
if you
Perfect.
say just solucious, it becomes the seventh plane.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So just like you're
Perfect.
saying fana fila, now
Yeah.
you will have to say fana fila of
Of
reality
the seventh plane.
and bakabila of divinity. You can't just say
Divinity.
fana.
Exactly. Okay. I think if Salik is, yeah, I think we'll stop here then, right? And then pick up from there. Yeah. I think
Jai
we'll
Baba.
continue next week. Jai Baba.
Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Just one
Hey,
thought.
Baba.
Sorry, my apologies. I joined late, but
Sure.
would have been interesting for me. I'll try and listen to the audio video.
Yes, yes.
And one thought that crossed my mind is, uh, forgive me, Baba, but most of these terms seem to be coming from Islam. They are Hindu terms or not pure Hindi terms. And through God's speech, Baba was trying to kind of unify the understanding of uh, you know journey of the soul, right? So I don't see as many references or equivalent references, or maybe I should read more in Christianity or Hinduism. One is to one. There is a table I remember in God Speaks, but most of the explanation is around Baka, Bila, Fana, uh, and stuff like that. So I would probably want to study more about equivalence in. from childhood, we've least exposure to Islam. I'll be honest. Uh, Although there's a lot of Muslims in India, but my exposure to Islam has been very little. So you end up struggling a little bit understanding these terms. So I'm not sure how others feel.
I
Uh,
think a very valid point, Sunilji. So we encountered the same experience probably 4 5 years back. I also used to almost see a resistance. But I think over time you get familiar with the meanings, and Baba's purpose in quoting these could be that the specificity that these provide could be superior to those provided in others.
Yes.
Whereas he also takes uh, he has taken the effort to compare and create equivalences where they are justified and readily available. I think that's my understanding.
Fair point.
Hey,
I
Baba.
would agree with that. But the world around us, um, I most of the Muslims, wherever you go, they are very closed up about discussing religion. And most of the non-Muslims, whether they are Hindus or Buddhists or even Christians, they're quite open about discussing religion. So how do you discuss this journey with people around us? The moment you say "Fana fila bakabila," I it gets hard talk. People think you're talking Islam. So I don't
I
know.
think that's the role of us as people that want to take it beyond
Hmm.
the negativity associated with a particular or the certain closeness that's associated with certain things. And
Right.
personally, I have worked to do that, uh, given the opportunities that I get to talk about this to people from the Muslim faith. It's not easy,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
and but I take it as an opportunity to discuss these things. And yes, there is, uh, I would say, resistance or even hesitation to talk from the people from other communities, and even from. But again, this is you have to just take it as it is, I
I
guess.
I would I would think it starts from my own mind. I haven't even tried you, or at least tried. So I have to study more. That's where I began. I think I have to understand more. But my mind gives me challenges. Is this only Islam, or is it? So I have to convince myself first by reading again and again.
More.
So I'm
Yes.
reserving that point in my mind. Mm. Sorry, Tama, you were saying something. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. No. Good, good. You guys completed the Siddhartha. See, I have some observations.
Mhm.
Um, for example, first of all, we know that Baba is like the beads on a necklace. So we have seen in God Speaks that there is a chart where all the three Vedantic, Sufi, and Christian mysticism, the terminologies are put side by side.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I was also going through this exercise of understanding the equivalent terms because you either only understand the mystical terms or the Vedantic terms. So to connect all of them, you have to keep reading the definitions whenever you're reading God Speaks. Uh, and especially what I've observed is that God Speaks actually contains more Sufi terms than anything else that I've seen. Much more than the Vedantic and Christian mysticism. If you look at the end of the chapter where the definitions are given, most of the meanings are for the Sufi terms. Number one. Okay, so there
Can I
must be.
interject?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Again, I'm uh, criticizing myself here. I don't yet fully understand, or not even little bit, difference between Islam and Sufism.
Yes,
So I have to learn more. Sorry, keep going, Kama.
right, right,
No,
right.
no, yeah,
My
so
the explanation. One second. Let me finish.
One
The
at a time.
point here is that Sufism is basically the Bhakti Yoga aspect of Islam. And when I speak to Muslims and
Mhm.
I talk about Sufism, a lot of them are aware of Sufism, but they are not practitioners because they are either Sunnis or Shias or all those other sects. To
Mhm.
become a Sufi, it requires some form of grace, or if you are
Mhm.
living in Turkey or something in a certain place, like I went to Kusadasi and then I went to this dervish concert called Sema. So
Mhm.
the thing is, Sufism is a very, very finer aspect of Islam in a way. It's what I call the Bhakti Yoga aspect. And also, I noticed that because of the terminology used by Baba and explaining Sufi words in God Speaks, I could understand what is Paramahamsa, what was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, what was Ramana Maharishi like. So Ramana Maharishi's, qualities, I could see that, but I didn't understand in what category did he come in. So in that sense, Sufism is very powerful because it goes into very much detail. The last supplement we read, a lot of this hal and hukam and all that. Even to me, it's very confusing. But yes, you're right that Sufism is basically a finer subset of Islam to me. Just like Saint Francis of Assisi, the Saint Franciscan Church for me, is personifies Christianity, and Advaita Vedanta personifies Hinduism, and you can say Zen Buddhism, probably, rather than Tibetan Buddhism, Atharveda, all these rituals. Zen Buddhism is what I connect with, or Vipassana practice. So I think that God Speaks definitely, Baba has been able to connect all of this, and I think his goal is to show what we are seeing today in the United States and what is happening in the world. What people are forgetting is that yes, we are all coming from one source, and the only thing that matters is love, and that's what it's all about. So anyway, I'll stop here, Jai Baba.
Geneva.
just,
Sorry.
just to take just to take forward what Kama has said, I think his last line was very divine. All are one, and I normally I also normally get confused using the terms. So I just a reference point is chart 11 of in the God Speaks. So in that the mystic, Sufi and Vedantic terms related to planes of consciousness as used in God Speaks is given, and they've given from 0 to 7 plane. It's a beautiful chart. I mean they really taken pain to make this, and it was the chart was done by L Dimple and mailed to Baba. So it has Baba's approval on it, and it explains the whole journey from 0 to 6 plane, then the final fana fila and words we use today. Many of the words are explained in that chart. So they've given the Sufi terms in blue, the Vedantic terms in red. It's a beautiful. I mean, in one page you have almost uh, the entire summary of God Speaks. It's just beautiful. Yeah, that's right, Karthik. Thanks for bringing it up. And of course, I'm learning every day. When we listen to this MBA series, and learning is a journey, and it never ends. And there's so much. And God Speaks is a amalgamation of all the religious texts written till date, be it Ramayana, the Ogam Sastra, or any of the Muslim text. All religions are condensed in God Speaks. It's really, as they say, each word is an atom bomb. Actually, it is an atom bomb. Each word has got so much significance and power. It takes a lot of meaning and depth to understand it. And we've been doing this MBA forum for last 4 5 years. It would take years, I think, years and decades to understand what's in God Speaks. Of course, discourses is a how of life, as we learned, but the when, what, where of spiritualism is God speaks. I'm just sharing this, and you should refer to this chart. It's beautiful, which Karthik has brought up on screen. It's a beautiful.
Okay, so Sunilji, you're closing
Yeah,
remarks. You're saying something. Thank you, Ashok, for
I put it
pointing
on our
this out.
WhatsApp group. So whatever I was
Oh,
saying, I put it on the WhatsApp group. Otherwise, it takes another 5 minutes. So please read it.
okay, okay. But I think I will be constrained to say one. I'll just take 1 more minute of your all your time. I think
Yes.
our role as being in the Baba fold is to take forward this strong and overbearing message of beads on one string, and we have to carry that uh, with pride. And so we should go beyond these restrictions of religion, the named religions, and unify it and present that to in as many forums as possible, and we carry that responsibility. So and I think we should focus on that rather than be worried about these terms and names and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Karthik, if I may correct, I mean, I just add on what you said, beads on single
one string. Yeah.
string. So, boss, BOSS. So, I mean, we have
Okay,
the torch bearers
I
for
forgot that. Yeah, we are that. Yes, yes, that's
BOSS, beads on single string. We have to be the torch bearers and spread the good word. And as Baba has said,
absolutely.
you put my name in the ears, from the ear to the heart, I'll bring.
Yes. Okay.
Lovely.
Jai
Thanks
Baba.
for
Jai Baba.
indulging by giving those 15 minutes extra on what is precious Sunday time. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a blessed week ahead. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Okay.
Gupta,
Okay.
Meher Baba ki jai.